This video is really aimed at Frontier, with the goal of bringing to attention the unnecessary and time-wasting process involved in finding the most difficult Thargoid instances. For the uninitiated though, I will describe the problem. Hyperdiction is essentially a Thargoid version of interdiction, but occurs during hyperspace jumps between systems, and offers more challenging combat scenarios, favoured by the more experienced AX pilots. There is an approximate 20% or 1 in 5 chance of this occurring in the Pleiades and Witchhead nebulas on every jump between systems. If you've carried a Thargoid sensor on board your ship, you unlock the hyperdiction possibility. When you actually get a hyperdiction, there is a random chance of it being one of 13 different combinations of Thargoids, with rarity increasing with difficulty. This unbalance in the combination probability is the main problem for experienced commanders seeking the more difficult fights. I have no doubt that when the system was introduced, it was considered unlikely that a single commander could take on these difficult matchups solo. The inclusion of these Thargoid combinations was maybe even put in as a rare novelty, but a lot has changed since then, and many commanders have the skill to take on these fights. In fact, for many commanders in the AXI, these more difficult fights are the ones they really enjoy. Unfortunately though, the system in place punishes these commanders by making them spend hours, days, or even weeks of endless, spirit-breaking jumping, just hoping that the RNG will finally give them one of these fights to enjoy. The two Hydra combinations, Hydra Triple Basilisk and Hydra Double Medusa, are around a 1% chance of occurring per hyperdiction, and remember that hyperdiction is a 1 in 5 chance to begin with. I'm not kidding on these timeframes either. I have currently spent 2 weeks searching for the Hydra Triple Basilisk combination with no luck. The current system discourages commanders that do possess the skill for these fights from going after them, robbing them of the chance to appear on the AXI leaderboard, and in my opinion this is needlessly punitive. Please remember that these are very difficult fights to win, perhaps the most difficult in the game. Why is having the skill to win not enough? Why must we also commit to a frankly ludicrous amount of time, entire weekends and evenings, to the monotonous task of jumping between two systems just looking for them? In this video, I would like to suggest changes to the system that would make the enjoyable content that Frontier have developed more accessible, while still retaining a degree of rarity and chance, but at a level that doesn't drive a person insane trying to locate it. We'll start with a simple solution. Equalize the probability of hyperdiction combinations. Currently, the distribution of hyperdiction combos is imbalanced, heavily favouring the weaker interceptor combinations, containing only Cyclops and Basilisks. The Hydra combinations, conversely, are very, very rare. So much so that statistically you would find one in every 500 jumps or so, though I am currently over 1,000 jumps without finding one. I shouldn't have to explain how demoralising that is. I would like to propose making every combination a 1 in 10 chance to be found. 1 in 10 you ask, aren't there 13 combinations? Well yes, at present there are. I would propose dropping the 4 single Thargoid instances, no single Cyclops, Basilisk, Medusa or Hydra. The reason being that these can readily be found at non-human signal sources and add nothing to hyperdictions that is special. If anything, finding these instances when looking for one of the more challenging matchups is simply demoralising. That would leave 9 possible combinations. The 10th I propose should be a wild card with 4 randomly chosen Thargoid interceptor variants. Give us something random and new. This would not only add an extra layer of unpredictability, but also potentially provide an even greater challenge. It may very well be impossible for a single commander to take on 4 Hydra, but you should give us the opportunity to try. Reworking the system in this way would not diminish the value of the Hydra combinations or hyperdictions in general, simply bring them into a more reasonable level of accessibility. Inexperienced commanders can still avoid any unwanted fights by simply doing nothing when hyperdicted, as has always been the case. The current system is just completely unreasonable and callously wastes the time of commanders looking for the tougher fights. Effectively, you are punishing those that have stuck with the game long enough to need a more challenging scenario. I'd also like to suggest a change to the Thargoid summoning system, that is, feeding Thargoids certain items like meta-alloys to summon more Cyclops interceptors to the instance. I have to ask, why can we only summon Cyclops? We have multiple different Thargoid technology artifacts that can be fed, so why not allow different interceptors to be summoned with different objects? As an example, you could have Cyclops join when meta-alloys are consumed, Basilisk when Thargoid sensors are consumed, Medusa when Thargoid links are consumed, and Hydra with Thargoid probes. The probes in particular are very hard to come by, and so it would be a big challenge to gain enough to successfully summon one. Not to mention that when feeding multiple Thargoids, figuring out a way to drop your cargo in a way that would ensure certain Thargoids eat only certain items would be challenging. Changes like these would add a lot of variety and possibility to the AXI leaderboard and make tougher fights more accessible to commanders who do not have the spare time to spend hours just jumping back and forth looking for Hydra combo instances, or quite understandably do not want to suffer through that random process. I can tell you from experience it is misery inducing. Frontier have spent time and money developing a feature that is enjoyable and in demand. Why are you so withholding with it? Why lock it away behind such a painful waste of time? Please consider making these changes. The AXI and AX community at large would be very grateful for the change.